Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
Hello, in this week's episodes, first is Oracle. The ghost of Jonathan asks Clark to kill Lionel, and Milton finds is an anti-vaxxer. Then in Vessel, Fine hacks the world and Lex has a new secret. This is the SMALLVILLE Chronicles. Hello, welcome back. Joining me as always is the illustrious Alan Muir.
God, these are two good episodes.
Yeah, well, they always have a tendency to end strong with seasons. Obviously, like this is the season 5 penultimate and ultimate episode. But yeah, especially like this is another time where we'll get into it, but a cliffhanger for a season finale. Isn't this like the third time?
I believe so.
Because yeah, it was the Chloe one.
Chloe at the end of season 3.
I think season 1 had a cliffhanger, didn't it?
Season 1 was the tornado. Season 2, well, that just ended with Clark going to Metropolis.
Yeah, that's not as much of a cliffhanger.
Season 3 is the heart attack with Jonathan.
And the house blowing up. And Lex getting poisoned.
Then in last season, it was the meteor shower.
Yeah, which was a kind of finale, not a... it wasn't a cliffhanger.
Well, they sort of, like with the ship arriving, that was sort of a cliffhanger. But yeah, this is a great season. And considering I haven't had, or I never wanted to, like, I just want to skip to like the later seasons.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I think season 6, we'll talk about after these 2 episodes a lot more, but is the big turn in the series. It's when we start getting a lot more of the crazy mythos Superman stuff, which starts in this first episode. But we do have we do actually have a new Superman show that is coming. I don't think it has been officially named yet, but it's basically being called the Superman and Lois Lane show.
Yeah, right now it's just called Superman and Lois.
Yeah, they have not officially named the CW show yet.
I was watching. Have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Comic Pop?
No, I have not.
They were doing one of the videos. They mentioned that the show should be called Super Family.
Yeah, like in one of the chats, we were talking like, oh, what should the name be? Like someone's like, oh, it should just go back to Lois and Clark. I was like, I bet they want nothing to do with that show. But yeah, it should be either like Super Family or the Kents. But yeah, because the big thing is that they have 2 boys, and the casting, they're like 8-ish, I think.
They're twins, and they're 13.
Oh wow, they're older than I thought. Yeah. So they're kind of like the age that if you were reading the comics until very recently, that Jonathan Kent was until they weirdly aged him up until his like 17. But yeah, so it's Jonathan and Jordan.
Yeah.
I believe. And I think, was Jordan the name of the kid in Superman Returns?
I think so.
I'm going to do a quick Google. You hear me typing?
Yeah, there's certain things that they like. Lois is still working at the planet. Clark is laid off. Jonathan's dead. Martha still is living on the farm. Sam Lane is going to be part of.
Yeah, the kid's name is Jason. So wait, they've already said all this about the show?
Yeah, and apparently Lana is going to be a big part of the show.
Interesting. Well, I wonder, and I actually liked the book. I think it was called Superwoman.
Yeah.
And so you know what I'm talking about, when they had like Lana and Lois get Superman abilities. They got different abilities though, and it was very interesting. That has definitely been dropped continuity-wise, like hardcore at this point. But it was an interesting thing, and I don't know, like, I wonder if they are going to sign, what's his name, to play Lex as like
John Cryer?
Yeah, as like a regular or something.
Well, they mentioned that, like, in this leak, that there's a character they're just calling the Stranger right now, and they were going to reveal who he really is at the end of the pilot, like the episode, or at the end of the pilot. And it's got some big names like behind the scenes. Todd Helbing is writing and executive producing. Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, and Jeff Johns are EPs.
All right, this might sound crazy, but if there's a stranger character, I want to put money down that it's Jor-El.
Oh, like the Doctor or the Mr. Oz.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that they could play with that. And it wouldn't be a bad, like, I don't like what they did in the comic, but I feel like there was things there that would work as like a story thing for Superman.
Yeah, because they're bringing like it seems like they're going to include Smallville with or like as a secondary location in the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a part of when they redid the continuity for Rebirth. They lived in Smallville for a chunk, and Lois would write from there. And then there was like a whole thing with the town. I can't remember what was like.
Oh, you mean the neighbor?
Yeah, and that was interesting. And they definitely could play on that of like the idea of John. Like, I like the idea of dealing with the two of them because there's obviously they're twins now, but like with the kids having to grow up with abilities, and especially if it seems strangely that Clark didn't have memory of them when we saw him in Crisis.
Yeah, it says here that Jonathan is the popular one, an all-star athlete who's about to enter the varsity team, and Jordan is introverted, anxiety-prone, and very much into computers and video games.
Which it is crazy for a 13-year-old to be. So he's a freshman and he's going to be on the varsity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. I don't know if there's like any dates on anything. So I would suspect not until next fall we'll get anything. Until they start filming. Because I think they just wrapped up Legends for the season. So I think most of the shows are like wrapping up now for the current season. But it will be interesting. This is a whole new continuity. And if you've watched Supergirl at all, they have fixed and addressed some very specific things and also teased some things. Like, I believe the phrase anti-life equation was mentioned in one of their episodes.
It was mentioned in, I think, the first or second episode after Crisis.
Yeah, the Brainy episode.
Yeah, it was actually the episode right after Crisis.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like, it is interesting to see what they're going to be doing, and we still also don't know what the deal is with the 2 HBO Max shows as well, Adam Strange and Green Lantern. So a lot of things are up in the air.
Yeah.
So, but Superman's back. Be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, we can get into these episodes. So the first one is season 5, episode 21, and it is Oracle. So these 2 episodes, I would say it's almost like 3 with the opening of season 6, kind of all go together as like one big story. Because I think they all kind of happen like chronologically, like very much within like the same time frame. So it's Clark's 19th birthday. Martha, Lois, and Chloe give him a surprise party, but it's small and subdued because Jonathan isn't there. And this is his first birthday without him. Lois gives Clark a diary to maybe because because he never talks to anybody, he should write things down. And Martha gives him a card that Jonathan had bought him before he died, and inside were a pair of tickets to a baseball game. Which is really kind of a heartbreaking thing.
I think the Milwaukee Sharks.
Yeah, it's like a made-up team for their show, but
yeah, and the scene where he sees the card and he just says that's Dad's handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing I really loved about this season and onward, where they fully address the effect of losing Jonathan to like the effect it has on Clark.
Yes,
because in the movie he
goes on a walkabout.
He goes on a walkabout, and even in the Donner movie, there's really nothing that happened. It's just he has a heart attack, dies, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's the difference of having a show and a movie. Although both of the movies both sets of movies could have easily done more with it. I don't really think it was until the show that they really ever gave it much weight to the Jonathan dying. I feel like in the books at certain points, he died when he was much older. Because I remember in the cartoon, in like the Superman Adventures, which was like late 90s, early 2000s, like Clark is fully Superman and he's still alive.
Yeah. What was it? I was watching The Adventures of Superman from the 50s, and it's not specifically Jonathan Kent, but it's clearly the character, and he just gets killed. He has a heart attack and is dead in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, I think they kind of, depending on the show, like going back to the Lois and Clark, Perry kind of takes that position in that show as like the real father figure. Because I don't even think, I'm sure they had an episode with them with the Kents, but like I feel like in most things they have Perry take on a more fatherly role, and it wasn't until this show where Perry is kind of very like we barely ever get like we get that one episode, but we don't get Perry till like very very late, and it this is kind of one of the first things that really shows us the Kents at all. And it does end up doing, we get some really goofy stuff with Martha later on, which is hilariously funny with the Red Queen stuff. But it's I think it's one of the aspects that like whenever I talk about the show, I'm like, that is the thing that this show does better than anything else is like Clark's relationship with his parents.
Yeah, and looking at this show from its entire run, and then during crisis when they had the characters back, Clark, there's a line that stands out from I think the pilot where Clark says, all I ever wanted was to be normal."
Mm-hmm. That's why like I think that ending works so well, the crisis ending. And like I guess in my mind he did the Superman thing for a little while, but then inevitably gave it up. So which is funny because in that he has girls, but we don't know they could be twins there too. It'd be an interesting through line if that became a thing in the TV universe now.
Yeah, I think it's season one, like at the tail end of the series. There's an episode where there's another Kryptonian on Earth. I think it's season 7 or 8, but he did the same thing.
Oh yes, I think it's 7 because it's
Brainiac is involved.
Brainiac is involved, yeah, and he has like the blue kryptonite, I believe.
Yeah.
I can't remember that. It's like a big character actor, and he like working in a shop, but yeah, it's the exact same thing. And they have like him and Clark have a very good conversation. But to jump into the episode, this is not the only thing we get from Jonathan. So Clark goes to the cemetery and he wants to thank his dad for the tickets, and then Jonathan walks out of the mist kind of and is standing next to him. And it's like, you got to kill Lionel. It's the only way to save the world. It's like, okay, Ghost Dad, like that's kind of messed up. So
yeah, and like as you're about to say, or I forgot. I think I watched this a few days ago, and he says he says something like the blood of everything is going to be on his hands.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's very heavy and like a very weirdly not Jonathan way. So and we'll see how it plays out because so the next morning Clark tells his mom what he saw and she's like, it's just your grief, which I feel like at this point people should just like people who are in the know should be like, yeah, anything that happens with Clark is probably not his mom playing tricks, probably something is going on. And he's like, yeah, I've seen his ghost before, which I can't remember, it was a couple episodes ago. It was the Lana thing where like where they were playing like the sleepers episode. And in that the ghost said that Lionel might be up to something. So Clark goes to the planet, tells Chloe, and she's like, yeah, like I'm suspicious of Lionel too. I think he's the one that actually set Martha up to be blackmailed and then like to save her. So we should investigate him. They break into his office and search the calendar, where they find 2 future appointments. One is for a reporter, and the other one is at the Pentagon to discuss the weapon, which they assume is Clark. Or at least Clark thinks that means him. And then we cut to Lionel at the mansion in Lex's library, and he's like, what is up with you constantly going to Honduras? No one goes to Honduras. It's gross. Lex is like, oh, don't talk to me. As Lionel's like, you don't know about Milton Fine, what he's involved with. It's way more dangerous than you think. And Lex is like, go away, leave me alone. And then Lionel kind of like freaks out and has like a kind of a seizure and then starts scribbling in Kryptonian symbols.
This was a similar type of ending to the like a few episodes ago.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember because sometimes when is it that Lionel's in the institution? Has that already happened yet, or has that not happened yet?
It already happened.
It's like very similar to that when like Lex goes to the thing and he's just like in a straitjacket and like saying, I can't remember, was he saying like Kal-El?
I
don't remember, but it's something like that.
Yeah, because I remember he's in this like the room or the
It's
pad.
it's the reverse of what happened with Lex.
Yeah, and there's Kryptonian symbols carved into the walls, the floor. It's
One of the things the show does well is like they keep like nothing ever kind of gets dropped. Everything kind of gets repicked up somewhere else and carried along. Like the show has a great like ability to maintain continuity. I think for the most part, like the CW shows have done the same thing. And I think that is a reason why a lot of people like Smallville, is because literally stuff from season 1 happens in the final episode of the series. With the Lex in the white suit thing that we saw in the like first 5 or 6 episodes comes all the way back in the like one of the final scenes.
Yeah, it's him in the finale. It's him in the same exact outfit, same exact look, and he's
just with a wig cap.
Yeah, and it says President-elect Luthor, and
which, based on the Crisis thing, he's been president for a really long time.
Yeah, he's been president for well. Technically, here's the thing.
Yeah, when does this season 10 of Smallville? What year is that?
2017.
Oh, so yeah, it's not really that long. Yeah, he might be in his first term, or he would be in his first term.
You know, at this point, I'd welcome Lex Luthor to be president rather than the current president.
Yeah, at least he has a better fashion statement, or Lex had a better fashion statement at the least.
Yeah.
So back in the show, Lois runs into Lana at the Talon, and is like, "Oh, you're buying coffee for Lex?" And Lana's like, "No," but then Lois is like, "Look, I don't care. Like, if you want to talk, we can talk." And they kind of have a 3-hour conversation about like the status of their relationship. So Lana meets Lex at the mansion, and Lex admits that he's involved in something top secret and dangerous, but like, I trust you, as opposed to Clark. And he's like, "Here's my secret lab. We've been collecting the most deadly viruses around the world to create a super vaccine to protect a person from any disease." Which I feel like the one thing I would say is like, I feel like this is when they could have tied in more to this Lex being a meta.
Yeah, very much.
With this, but they don't. And then he says, him and Fine believe the black ship is the first of many, and a vaccine could save mankind from the potential invaders. Basically, this is a plot ripped from the X-Files. Like, almost directly, like, this is the entire idea of, like, all the secret government stuff in the X-Files TV show, is that the aliens are going to unleash some sort of virus so that the governments are trying to create a vaccine, which the vaccine is high words.
I knew I'd forgotten about that for a reason.
Yeah, which I never watched the second season of like the revamp series, but the first season basically retcons all that and to say that it was all bullshit and that the aliens never existed and it was all just the government making that stuff up to like fuck with people, to like cover up what they were really doing. That's the season with Robbie Amell.
Yeah.
I never watched the second season, but I would say the best episode to watch is the one with Camille Nanjiani. It is like because I think it's only 6 episodes, and they did like one that's like a classic like monster episode, and it's Camille Nanjiani, and I can't remember the other person in it is an Australian like comedic actor. He was in Flight of the Conchords, and he was in have you ever seen What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, Jermaine Clement.
No, but it wasn't Jermaine Clement. It was the guy who was the werewolf guy, the head of the werewolves.
Reese Darby.
Yeah, the redhead. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
him and Camille Nanjiani are like the guest stars in that episode, and it is hilarious. I would definitely suggest it. I think it's like episode 4.
That, and you get to see Mayor Tate looking like he's near death.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I forgot he's in the first season of this show too. The cigarette smoking man. So back into this, and so Lex is like, I'm super suspicious of Fine. Here's some satellite photos of Fine in Honduras near the black ship, so I know he's interacted with it, and then Fine's gone the next second. And they feel like, oh, I think Fine is an alien, and Lana tells him that when Lionel was in a trance, he told her the alien's weakness, which I think what was it, like their home is their weakness, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
So Martha arrives home one evening, and she gets a voice message from Lionel.
Oh god, yeah, this bit coming up was so funny.
So she's listening to it, and then she gets a vision of Jonathan in the living room, and he's like, "Oh, you're in a relationship with Lionel now? Like, you didn't even care that I..." Like, he kind of gets like real shitty with her, and it's like, Lionel is dangerous, and he must be eliminated. Lionel's the one who's responsible for my death. And Martha's like, "Wait, what?" It's like, tell me more. Like, I don't understand. And then all of a sudden, Jonathan disappears. But then outside, we see Jonathan, and bum, bum, bum. Guess what? It's Milton Fine because he can shapeshift because he's goddamn Brainiac.
I really like the effect of him going, like the transition from, like the little transformation from Jonathan to Fine.
Yeah, it's much better than the previous shapeshifter stuff. Although it's like, 'cause one was Terminator 2, like,
Oh, Terminator 2
like
was
91,
92.
92. So, like, because there's a lot of things that are very T2 in this,
Oh yeah, especially
the blades.
yeah.
So it's like, oh, that stuff is finally cheap enough for TV shows. So Martha tells Clark what Jonathan told her, and Clark tells Martha how he thinks Lionel's going to try to use me as a weapon. And Martha's also like, I think he might have had something to do with Jonathan's death as well. So now Clark's like in a real huff. So Fine meets Lex at the mansion, and he's like, I know you've been keeping me out of the loop on Project Mercury. And Lex is like, I know you're not CIA, and I'm not going to give you the vaccine because I don't know what you're doing. And he opens a light box, and it's a meteor rock, and I know it's your vulnerability. And Fine's like, oh, and like picks it up. It's like, yeah, so I'm not Kryptonian, but I was made by them. And then yeah, blade arms like T2. It's like, and basically it is hilariously exactly T2 looking. It's a little different though because he makes like a fist, and then it comes out of his fist like a giant Wolverine claw. But it looks really good, and I like that it like starts at his hand black and then kind of turns to silver. So then we cut to Chloe tells Clark that she researched Jonathan's cell phone, and they were in communication for weeks before his death, and last call happened right before he died. So Clark's like, I knew he was there that night, and tells Lionel to meet him at the barn. Lionel tries to explain like their communication, and Clark's convinced that Lionel killed Jonathan to control me as weapon. He's like, you're being too emotional, and like starts to beat the crap out of Lionel.
Yeah, this is where we get the nice, or coming up when we get a what I call a bit of foreshadowing into the future of Superman as a series, as a like franchise.
Oh, shitty Jonathan.
No, the bit where when Fine shows up in the barn.
Oh yeah, so yeah, so Jonathan shows up and he's like, you need to kill him. Lionel's like, your dad would never want you to kill anyone, and Clark's like, oh yeah, you're right. I beams pew pew and shoots Jonathan away, who turns into Fine, and they get like, Jonathan gets the upper hand. Lionel goes into a trance, and he touches him, and he turns into Fine, and then he disappears. Lionel comes out of the trance is like, what just happened? And Clark's like, you tell me, guy.
Yeah, and what I'm specifically referring to is Fine gets his hands around Clark's head.
Oh,
and
like
mentions,
the neck snap?
Yeah, like, I could very easily snap your neck and kill you, but you're still needed or something. And like, wow, they really called this like 10
Yeah.
over like 10 less than 10 years until
The Snyder version, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think, he wants him alive because he wants Zod.
He wants
him to work with Zod.
Yeah.
So Lionel takes Clark to his office and is like, Fine's not Kryptonian, which, because you've destroyed him twice. And he's like, how come you were able to destroy him? And Lionel's like, I'm not sure, but here's like my closet full of papers and Kryptonian symbols that I've read. I have no idea what's going on. And then whatever is happening to me is meant for you. They give the notebook to Chloe, and it's like, I'm going to decipher them because I can do this, even though I just have a high school degree. And basically Lionel's like, yeah, tells Clark and Chloe, Fine's working with Lex. They're trying to develop this super deadly virus that could decimate the population. I guess kind of like Planet of the Apes style. And I think that the virus is just like a piece of what Fine's trying to accomplish. And Chloe admits that Lana probably knows something about it too. And so then we pop into, I didn't realize how much happens in this episode. They go to the dorm room and they get Lois, and they go through Lana's things. And they find pictures of the black ship.
No. Lana and Lois arrive there to find Clark.
Rifling through her things, yeah. And he's like, what do you know about this? And Lois is like, I'm out of here. And I was like, super angry. And he's basically like, Lex is involved in something super dangerous. You need to tell me where the lab is. And she's like, get the hell out of my face kind of a thing, like invading her privacy, which she obviously was. Lex confronts Fine at the lab, but I know you're going to unleash the virus in the population. And Fine is like, oh, no, that's definitely not what I was going to do. I actually only needed one. And he's like, he takes it and like merges it with himself.
Yeah.
And then he goes,
he injects some foreign matter into it.
And then like Pulp Fictions it into Lex, who collapses, and then Fine trashes the lab.
Yeah, I think what was his line? I think you need this, and then just proceeds to destroy it.
Yeah. And so Clark arrives, he sees Lex on the floor, but Fine speeds away. I guess Clark brings him to the hospital or whatever, and Lex says his doctor check him out, and the doctor's like, hey, you're healthier than you've ever been. And Clark is like, yeah, you should have listened to Lionel. And Lex is like, the vaccines would have helped people, but I don't know where Fine is. And Clark's like, well, you crossed the line by going through he tells Clark that you crossed the line by going through Lana's things. And Lex and Clark argue, and Lex points out that Clark lost Lana by himself. Lex had nothing to do with it. Lionel goes to the farm and admits to Martha that he did talk with Jonathan tonight, and told him that he knew Clark's secret. Jonathan was angry. He didn't let him explain. And Martha does not reply, and Lionel leaves, saying that at least he was honest. Lana visits Lex and is like, that things have been awkward between them, that we should stop talking about Clark. And she asks him why Fine ordered the vaccine destroyed. And Lex notices a mark where he was injected, and he cuts his own finger with a corkscrew, but then it heals instantly. Lois finds Clark brooding, which he always does, and he's upset over Lex and Lana. Lois tries to console him, then basically says you should give Lana some space, and maybe like Lana isn't the one you're meant to be with. And Clark appreciates it, but they're interrupted by Chloe. And Chloe's like, he's like, you handled your birthday really well. It's like, Clark's like, I really miss my dad. And it's like, oh, but your dad gave you more valuable gifts, and how you grew up. And she says the pattern that she translated is Zod is coming. Bum, bum, bum.
To be continued.
Yes. Which I do think it was very, very interesting that they jumped into Zod so early in the series, like Zod and Brainiac in season 5, like compared to, because we haven't got like any of the other big Superman villains in the series up until this point. It's just been kind of one-offs, and they kind of jump right into the deep end.
Yeah, and any potential villain that they did throw in was just simply not necessarily a watered down version, more of a different character, but the same characteristics, like the water or the body heat episode, where that was sort of like Parasite.
Yeah, which we do get like a real Parasite later on.
We do?
I think he's like a one-off character in like season 9 or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense. 8 and 9 are the ones that I didn't really care for.
It's like it's whatever season has like Plastique and like all that stuff.
You mean
excess?
Yeah.
They kind of jump into the deep end, and it's actually like this is where it's good, and then it's when they like get away from this and then go back to like the bad guy to the weak is when stuff gets really wonky. Because they go from Brainiac, Zod to Bizarro, then like back to Zod. I'm trying to remember, because we get Zod like 3 times, don't we?
We get Zod and
Lex, then we get good Zod, and then we get evil Zod.
Well, sort of. Well, technically, we get Zod, and now we get this Zod, or the Zod at the end of season 5, beginning of season 6. We get clone Zod.
Yeah, Kandor Zod, right?
Yeah, in season 9. And then season 10, when they go into the Phantom Zone, it's the clone of Zod.
It's the merged.
Yeah, it's the clone of Zod with the consciousness of Zod.
So let's pop into the second episode. So season finale of season 5, Vessel. So basically we start off, animals are like freaking out. There's a bright light. We go to Luthor Mansion. Lex wakes up with Lana kind of on top of him on the couch. They're like kind of fell asleep on top of each other. He gets up and he starts driving crazy fast. Lana follows him, trying to call him on her cell phone. He stops. He gets out. He tells her to stay. He runs through the woods. And then the ground starts to erupt around him in a circle of light. And then Milton Fine shows up behind Lana, and she's like, what the heck is going on? And he's like, he's preparing Lex. So the black ship appears, a beam of light shows down, and Lana runs towards it, but Lex is beamed up, and left on the ground is the giant mark of Zod burned into the ground. Which I do like the look of it. It's kind of, instead of the S, it's the Z.
Yeah, it's a good design.
Which I think they still basically use currently, like in the comics. So at the Kent farm, Lois is trying to get plane tickets for Martha when Lionel shows up and is like, oh, we could take my plane. And he tries to get close to her, so he can get closer to Martha and talk to her. Lana goes to daily planning and tells Chloe what she saw. And Chloe goes to Clark, and Chloe warns Clark against listening to Jor-El, but Clark goes to the fortress. Jor-El's like, that ship and Fine are like one being, and they won't stop until Zod is released. And Jor-El says Zod's body was destroyed, and he needs a vessel. And a knife appears, and Jor-El tells Clark he must use it to destroy the vessel, no matter who it is. Basically, he's like, yeah, you gotta kill Lex, because he's obviously... So Clark meets with Chloe, and tells him he doesn't want to kill anyone, and Chloe figures that Lex is the vessel, and Clark announces he may have to kill Lex as Lana overhears him from outside the room. Now that's a whole thing. Clark goes to the barn, and he's considering the knife when Lionel arrives, and is like, yeah, I have these other warnings, and they say sacrifice the vessel, and Clark tells Lionel that Lex is the vessel, and Lionel's like, oh, crap.
And we then get to the part where I just lost it out of the show being very dumb.
Yes. So, yeah, we go back to the field. Lex is lying in the field with the Zod symbol. He gets up, and Lionel arrives, and basically Lex is like, there's nothing you could do. And he goes to, like, touch Lex, and Lex, like, chucks him into a car windshield.
And he should be dead.
Oh, he should be, like, mega dead. And Lex super speeds over there, and Lionel's, like, horrified, and then Lex super speeds to the manor. The only thing I could say is, like, maybe Lionel's not dead because he's the vessel of Jor-El, or whatever, the conduit. I don't remember what term they end up using. So maybe that's kind of helped him. So Lana's there. She sees Lex. She shoots him with a gun, but he's bulletproof. And it's like, yeah, it's still me. But Lana's like scared. And it's like, yeah, I couldn't keep anything secret from you. And Lana reveals that Clark is going to kill you and that Lex needs to go. And Lana tells him she can't come with him, but she can meet him at Luthor Corp roof that night. Clark meets with Lionel, who's like, I taught Lex how to be completely ruthless, and now he has all your power. And that you need to fight against, that he believes that Lex can do what he can to fight against Zod, but they need to sacrifice Lex for Lana. Like, I don't know, it gets really wonky here. Clark goes to the mansion to confront Lex, but he only finds Lana. It's like, I won't betray Lex because unlike you, he always tells me the truth. And she's like, Clark, tell me what is going on. And he can't. So it's like, I don't understand how I ever loved you, and storms out angrily. Fine shows up and taunts Clark, and it's like, that Clark was supposed to be the vessel, but since he, like, if you want to do it, then I will release Lex from it. But Clark refuses. And then, so I'm going to use your affinity of humans against you. I'm going to destroy them all. And then he like slaps his hand onto Lex's laptop, and everything turns into Kryptonian symbols. And apparently that now has spread across the entire world. And what they call, like, Black Monday or Dark Monday is what they call it in the next season.
Yeah, and
something like that.
Yeah, it's certain things from the end of this episode to like the next episode they don't make sense.
Yeah, because basically when we get to Clark goes to the other planet, and Chloe's like, everybody in the world's been infected by this computer virus, and a car randomly comes flying through the window. Which
God, that was just
yeah.
How did it fit?
So Clark catches it, saves Chloe, and he goes out there to save who he can. And Chloe's like, you can't save anybody. You have to do what you're destined to do. And then Chloe gives him like a super passionate kiss in case they never see each other again.
They could have said, or have her said, for luck.
Yeah. The phone rings and it's Lex, and he's like, I want to meet Clark. So Lois and Martha are on board Lionel's plane. They talk about Lionel's frequent offers to give Martha favors, and Lois alludes at the possibility that he has feelings for that you have feelings for him. They realize that the surroundings look strange, that they're in the mountains, and it looks like, and there's a Brainiac flying the plane. Lois tries to get the door open, and then oxygen begins to run out, and Martha collapses, and Lois manages to put an oxygen mask on her before she collapses. So Clark goes to the barn, he meets Lex, and the two have like a verbal sparring match, and then Clark beats Lex and draws the knife and holds it to Lex's throat. Fine appears and says like, do it, and Clark refuses and throws the knife into Fine. It glows red, and basically by not killing Lex and killing Fine, it opens up the portal finally to release Zod because the knife's connected to the fortress.
Yeah,
This is like super convoluted.
Or could it be the first time that Fine was killed at the fortress? He could have implanted some kind of little
It's
kernel?
it's either he put something of himself in the fortress that's now being activated, or he didn't get all of himself back and now he has. It's very goofy. But basically finds like, you opened the portal, Zod is back, and Energy slams it to Fine, and then Lex, and now Lex turns and speaks as Zod, and let's just say it's like Zod L for Lex Zod. Tells Clark, you have no choice. You could either join me or I'm going to destroy Earth. Clark says no. And then the thing that we get that's going to happen a lot, he takes off a tiny circle and throws it, and Clark's now in the Phantom Zone, and we get like the mirror thing from the old movies.
Yeah,
I get that it's an homage to the Donner movies, but it looks so goofy.
Yeah.
So riots are breaking out across the world, and Chloe's like doing her best to like work her way through Metropolis. She sees Lionel's limo and gets in with him, but the mob overwhelms the car and they pull them out. Lana's on her way to Luthor Corp, where Zod L is waiting for her, as he promised.
What do you think of the guy that tried, the random mob or rioter who tried to assault Lana and she just kissed his ass?
Oh my god. It's her training.
Yeah.
Lana kisses him, and across the globe we see the power goes out, and then we get the Phantom Zone thing flipping through space, and that is how we end season 5. So season 5 overall is pretty good. It is interesting to know, like, so like season 4 was the same, like season 4 finale was like when Batman Begins was coming out, and season 5 is Superman Returns. And it's kind of crazy to think about how old those movies are, and that the fact that Superman Returns happened after Batman Begins. For some reason, I always think it happened first.
So apparently there was a deleted scene for the episode, like inside of the Black Ship.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Brainiac is shown preparing Lex, and Brainiac is putting the Phantom Zone bracelet on him and projecting the powers on him. And apparently, this is just something that blows my mind. Chloe mentions Y2K.
Oh, I was going to write that in our opening because that's very obviously what they're playing at in this.
And apparently there was a Superman Y2K book in which Brainiac 13 attacked Earth. This is a crazy episode.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so, like we said, I guess going towards, like, looking back at season 5, it's fine. Like, there are some amazing episodes in this season, but there's also some really bad ones. We start off in a very goofy thing with the Phantom Zone thing, which is what we end in. We got Aquaman, we got Cyborg in this season, but we also had the goofy vampire episode and the Fanatic episode and like the Ghost in the Wall and the other, what was she? She's now in Supergirl, the character Andrea Rojas, who's like the super person. But then there were awesome episodes like Mercy, which we just did, Lexmas, Splinter. So it's a kind of a mixed bag. And then looking forward to season 6, this is when things change a lot. Obviously, the first episode is a direct
continuation,
but we get further developments of Clark's powers, the introduction of Oliver Queen, who is basically in every episode. We get a pseudo Justice League episode. We get the marriage episode. We also get the episode with WWE guys.
Which that episode is the debut of Martian Manhunter.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, we get 2 different WWE episodes then.
Oh yeah, one with Kane and Ashley Massaro, may she rest in peace.
And one with the earlier one with Batista.
Yeah, where he literally is just he breaks you and just eats you.
Which I think he said was like one of his first acting gigs.
It's amazing how he went from this to Drax.
Yeah. And then we get the previous tie-ins to like was it like level 13 or whatever it was?
33.1.
33.1 stuff. So we get some cool stuff in season 6. We also get some goofy stuff. We get more backstory on Lex, and we get our Phantom Zone adventures and like the whole setup for a good chunk of the season, which is the hunting of the Phantoms.
Yeah, and also next season is the last season where Lionel is a regular cast member.
Yes, we get Lionel in his last one, but we also get the addition of Jimmy.
Yeah.
Who ends up not being Jimmy.
It's a long story.
Yes. But that's kind of like where a lot of this stuff kind of hits starts to really change, because by the time we get to season 7, that's when we get like the Supergirl stuff, the return of Pete, their weird version of Black Canary.
Yeah, it was
all the alternate Earth stuff.
It was the creators it was Goff and Miller trying to tie up any loose ends before they would leave the show, and Peterson and Souders would take over.
Yeah, it was also like the writer strike was like just about to happen. So yeah, we get all that, and then I'm just clicking through the episodes, like the different seasons. I'm like, oh, I forgot some of these things. Which season 8 is the one I'm like, oh, I forgot all of these things.
You like the episode season, I think 6 or 7, where Jimmy's a spy?
Oh yes. He gets like one episode a season once he joins of like a Jimmy episode. And then we have one more season of Lionel really, and like 2 more seasons of Lex, and that's it. Because he's only in 6 and 7, I think. I don't think he's in 8.
No, he's
not in
8 is the introduction of Tess.
Yes.
And 8 is the last season with Lana.
Which is a good segue. So we were just talking about before we started recording, and if you listen to the comic show, it was brought up for our in-between season special. We are thinking of watching the amazing piece of film that Kristen Kirk left Smallville to go make. And that is Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, starring many other people from the CW Arrowverse. When they were like decently big, I would say, because Neil McDonough was not like, he's never been like a big name, but what's his name was pretty big after American Pie.
Oh, Chris Klein?
Yeah. But so we're gonna check that out. And speaking of which, don't forget to check out the comic book show and all the other shows. We just finished reading oh my god, I'm blanking on it, Venom Lethal Protector, which was a hilarious book. And today we are recording our first episode where we are reading The Ultimates from, what is that, like 2005? 2002. Oh my god. The amazing Mark Millar retcon alternate universe of the Avengers, which strangely is the inspiration for the MCU. And check that out. And Al, you have the Players Club
podcast. By the time this goes up, episode 7 will be up. Episode 6 is up on the YouTube channel, and me and Emmett talked about our top 5 PS3 games that were given away throughout the history of PlayStation Plus. And thank God we didn't. For once, we actually did not go over 2 hours and 30 minutes. So check all that stuff out at vgu.tv.
Yep, and don't forget to rate and review, subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend about everything. So, we'll check you guys next time. Thanks for listening. I am Lou Gonzalez.
And I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for truth, justice, and American way.
Kneel before Zod.
Clark Kent, this is Jimmy Olsen.
Whoa, growing big in Kansas, don't they?
Smallville. All new episodes this September on the new CW.